Hey everyone. Woo. Hey everyone. I thought I was going to do all of those announcements and music and all of that stuff up front, huh? And listen, y'all got to talk back to me. I got to make sure that you're on with me.
Good morning,
Good
good,
morning,
good evening, and good night.
good evening, and good night. B, how are you? I don't know if B can hear us. Maybe yes, maybe no. Nope. We are going to chat. You? Nothing. It's the emoticons. It's the sign language. Oh no. Ah, listen, it is.
B, I can't
Can you hear me?
hear
Yes.
you.
There we go.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Okay, now I can. I heard her.
And now we can hear us. It's the sign language for me. You know, that's another form of communication that we should dig into.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, at another time though, not tonight.
Mhm.
Today we are
Not
doing
tonight.
night tonight. We are doing holiday edition, people, and we are just kind of taking a pause for the cause so that we don't discount individuals that are going through spaces in their life during this holiday season or this week. And so let me tell you one thing for sure. We have every intention on getting back to the power behind the tongue conversation because there was a massive explosion regarding that conversation that I think that we need to have, and we need to have some organization around. Like I think for me, like let's kind of touch that a little bit because for me, right, I listen to
All right, Shez, do
people.
you still have the music on for a reason?
I don't have the music on for any reason. Are you seeing it?
I still hear the intro music from the opening.
Do you? That should not be unless somebody has that up, but it's not up here. You hear it through the
Uh,
actual stream?
well, I'm listening to you talk, and I can still hear the music.
Oh,
B, can you hear it, or am I in another realm? You can't hear it. Lord Jesus, help us tonight. Tonight's gonna be something.
unless you have it open unless you have Facebook open in your background, there's a delay.
Let me check. Okay, all right. I'm gonna get off for a minute. I'll be right back.
Okay, perfect. So yes, while we are organizing our people around this conversation, there's a lot of things that this power behind the tongue conversation has kind of opened up for a lot of different individuals. And for me as a mental health clinician, we get a great bulk of communication inconsistencies. And so we have individuals who have certain belief systems versus what they are that could be different than what they're verbally communicating and don't always equate how those behaviors or those core beliefs impact what they say and what they do. So we miss it. We don't pay attention to the programs that are running behind the scenes, and that becomes challenging when we're trying to figure out, well, I'm saying the right things, but what is actually coming out of me that is provoking some other things. So, B, what did you think about that when we started having that conversation, specifically about the background programs?
Background programs. What you mean?
Well, the idea of having conversations and communication, the power behind that tongue speak piece, what it opened up for me was the idea that a lot of times we can be saying one thing, but don't
Mhm.
necessarily recognize that we have back programs that are running behind the scenes that are creating something else. So what do you think about that?
When I hear you say that, it almost sounds like we're talking out of both sides of our mouth, um, so to speak. Because it's like, I don't want to get married. Oh, but I don't want to get married. Oh, I want a boyfriend. Like, like, um, it's kind of like that. It's like make up your mind. Maybe we need to talk about the mind too. Like
Mm-hmm.
so, and I think sometimes things become so a part of us, like we start developing language and lingo that just comes out. Like I know just for example, like my sister,
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm not gonna say her name, but what I have 5, so they can all calm down. One of my sisters, when they talk, if we have conversations, she always says, "You hear me?" And I'd be like, and at first when I didn't realize that was kind of like her tag, I'd be like, "Yeah." Like, why she keep asking me that? But I don't know why. She just always says, you hear me?" So, so like, sometimes you just do stuff for so long, it just becomes a part of us. But we don't realize like what we say, what the attraction that is attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Right.
a lot of times. So sometimes that's already a part of our lingo, and sometimes things that we say are always already in our thought process, and sometimes we need to deprogram ourselves
Mm-hmm.
to try to really in order to clear the slate in order to get what we really want. It's kind of like you do some house cleaning. But sometimes things just are a part of us for so long we don't recognize that it's becoming problematic.
Mm-hmm.
um but yeah, those things running in the background.
Mm-hmm. It's like these programs, just like Adam was hearing the music and it wasn't coming from here. It was running in the background somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we devalue how much is in our soul that we refuse to work out. And yet we say Jesus came to save our soul. Well, what is he saving it from? I just be tickled. What is he saving it from? He's saving it, right? That whole idea of salvation and freedom is a work that we must do.
Saving us
Yeah.
from ourselves.
And maybe that's the case, right? Because in all of that, we get real righteous, almost indignant when it comes to systems that are being challenged. So when it comes to, like, you're gonna be a millionaire. Oh, I love that. I'm gonna dance off of that. Yes, tell me, prophet,
That
tell
part.
me. I'm gonna
That part.
dance off of that until I walk away from that altar and the Holy Spirit starts to work on me about the work of my poverty mentality, of what it takes to
Hmm.
invest. We get very resistant when it comes to some details of all of the work. Those are those background programs. And then we wonder, well, why didn't it manifest? So now we have a crisis of religion. We got a crisis of faith. We got a crisis of if our God is real, which is what is running in the earth today. Woo! So much is running in the earth today about the reality or the realness of God. And it's all because of background systems that are functioning. And we've got to address that as spirit leaders, right? Adam, what say you with that? I think we really got to address that. And now we're gonna move into holiday stuff because I just want to check in and make sure people is good going through their grief. But since we're here, talk about that. I think we have to really address that as spiritual leaders. And here's the thing: the challenge with that is that it may close some doors. What do we think about that?
Yeah, I think I'm beginning to see. First off, good evening to everybody. Happy pre-Thanksgiving to everyone, and welcome to the Forum of Life. Um, um, I'm beginning to believe that um, the multitasking that is needed in the heart and in the soulish realm, oh come on, the multitasking that is needed is so pivotal to the human experience. I'm beginning to embrace the fact that I'm crazy, uh, absolutely insane. And I think that we all should embrace that fact, because all of us are schizophrenic. All of us have multiple things going on at the same time. All of us are smiling in this person's place all the time, wanting to punch them in the face. All of us are having multiple moments and conflicts and crises of the heart. And so then you begin to, I began to wonder, like even in the space that we're talking right now, y'all, what did Jesus come to save you or restore you? If he came to save you because you were lost in the New Testament, but if the Old Testament, all souls are his, then were you ever really? My question is, were you ever really lost? Misguided, maybe. Detoured, maybe. But in my heart, I don't think I was ever really lost. Was I sinking deep in sin, far from the peaceful shore? Yes. But was I lost? I think that if you believe God to be all powerful and omniscient, which the majority of people do, then you knew he had a plan for you. So even while you were out doing what you were doing or in a lost state, there was a plan for you. So yes, sinking, but lost? No, not lost. Blind? Yeah, but sinking? Nah. And I wish I could just release a space of hope that even while we're going through the multitasking of finding out who we were always supposed to be, the multitasking of dealing with what we experience as life forms and what we do as human beings. I'm beginning to understand that phrase that says I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Some of us knew we shouldn't be in a certain situation that we were in while we were out in the world. Cognitively, we knew it. Consciously, we were living our life, but subconsciously, there was a thought coming through us that was saying this ain't good. There were gifts that were working in us. There were things that were alive in us, though we were out and all over the place. And the what I'm coming into, y'all, is I'm coming into an understanding that though my mind was lost, my soul wasn't lost. As a matter of fact, if that was the case, then he would not be coming to restore my soul. He would be coming to do a brand new work, not return me to a previous state. So I am, the more we delve into matters of the heart here at the Life Forum, is the more excited I get about the fact. Now listen, David said, Lord, you have searched me and you know me. And that's at the best of times and the worst of times. So I'm coming into, I guess maybe I'm coming into a fresh understanding of the love of God. Far and away, 3 times removed from the Christian perspective, the general Christian rephrase. Let me rephrase that. The Western viewpoint of the Christian perspective. And the more I become divorced from this Western centric viewpoint and really delve into a new knowledge of myself from God's viewpoint, oh, I'm really starting to like the butthole a lot of people think I am. I like me. You don't like me? What's wrong with you? All right, all right.
Wait, but who? Okay, so I heard the Kirk Franklin version of that. What's your version?
What's my version? I,
Yes. Who
I
started
like
that?
me. I like me. And it don't matter if you don't like me, because he likes me.
Uh-huh.
That's why I am fearfully and wonderfully made. You know, sometimes all of us, all of us, all of us. Have you ever been by yourself and you did something stupid and you laughed at yourself? You just laughed. It wasn't nobody in the room to confirm or deny whether it was funny or not. You just laughed. Did you think he wasn't laughing with you? Come on, the man likes me. He died because he thought I was valuable. Woo! Don't get me started on. I'm sorry. I'm trying. I'm not going to yell. Grace and peace.
Well, you already yelled, sir.
I'm sorry. I'll pull back.
You
I'll
pull back? Is that what that was? B, did he pull back?
I
No, not quite.
thought
No,
I pulled back.
no. I have a feeling you're gonna make up tonight for the soft tones that you had last week.
Oh, no. I'm trying. I'm trying to step. You know what? Last week I felt so much like Dr. Daniels. It was hilarious to me. It was hilarious.
Mhm.
But there's grace there. There's wisdom there. I believe that in some spaces I turn on more people talking calmly than when I am excited. And having to navigate that is something that it's something I will master. I will learn a balance between the two. Both of them are me, but learning which sword to wield in what place, I'll figure that out. Y'all pray for me, but I still like me.
I love that. I love that. We got background programs, and as you can see, these next 4 weeks of this particular conversation is going to be dope. We are missing two of our compadres because they are heading out on Thanksgiving holiday vacations. One is, and then the other one is preparing for services for the holiday, and so he might be running in on some of this conversation or not. We'll see. But I'm hopeful. We're going to put some additional materials out on this conversation because we would like your feedback. What are you thinking about the power of the tongue? I know we say it, life and death, it lies in it, but you don't know that there's a whole government that is slaying everything that your tongue is wielding.
Absolutely.
Woo, it's a governmental system that is organizing, that is constructed not just by God, but by your life experiences, your personality, influences, DNA, nature, and nurture. All of it is the power behind the tongue or the words that get released from our mouth. And if we don't understand all of the dimensionality of that, we will be messed up with just wielding a sword that is only doing what they think it's supposed to do.
You know, Shazetta, when we got off the forum last week, I was watching TV and the Titanic was on.
Yes.
And, you know, when you look at a ship, it's amazing to think that all of the components that keep that ship afloat are steered by one wheel. It's amazing. And when you talk about the power of the tongue, all of the amazing abilities that we have, our total capacity can literally be ignited or destroyed, decimated by the way we wield our tongues. Some people know how to speak like waterfalls, and other people know how to spit words like diamonds and glass. And all of our capacity can be wielded in one direction if we simply let this tongue be itself, because the tongue wants to be out of control. It does not want a ruler. So, my thought.
Wow. It does not want a ruler. Have you ever thought about that within yourself? Like, I watched my daughter today, and B, I want you to speak to this too, because if you wouldn't mind, of course, because we have young children still, and our young children have particular conditions, and they be obstinate. I know mine does. Like, I know what I'm doing. I've been here already. Just leave me to do it. But it's unsafe. It is unorganized. Now, do they get the job done? Yes. But my child, if you do too much for her, she's gonna have a whole challenge. And I'm like, but sweetie, you're just 8. I still got to watch the fire for you. You still can't run in the street by yourself. You can't be outside on your own. That whole idea of just not needing a ruler is interesting, especially when it comes to younger children. B, what do you feel about that?
Aiden is um Aiden is different. Like he he likes to experiment with stuff and then be like, no, I got it. No, you don't. You don't have it. and it and it is a whole Broadway production. He is very much so my son. That's I say all the time. Everything I tell him has to be a back and forth until you know, sometimes my hands move faster than my brain do sometimes. So but it is, and it's like I want him to have the independence, but ooh child, the process, and that's not a word that I like. The process. The process in which they have to get to that is definitely hard. Because I don't want my son to ever be recognized as a person that has a disability. Like he's not gonna be one of them kids in school saying, yeah, because I need medicine. Like, I feel like I work with kids and like they know, oh yeah, I'm not acting right today because I didn't take my medicine. No, like that's using your disability as like a weapon. Like, no, he's not even gonna know that he got one.
Can I ask
So
y'all
I do try. Go ahead.
about that, what you just said? When we were growing up, right? Let me not say that's going too long. Let me get to the question. As parents, we want our child to have, when they're little, we want them to have as much freedom as they can possibly deal with, because this is their world, and we set boundaries and borders for them, that when they're little they don't mind. But part of their growing up is to start figuring out, can I venture behind this border and become, and expand my borders and my boundaries, right? I have my question is this. All kids have that. We all experience that. At what point do and the rebellious part of wanting to step behind the borders isn't them trying to be evil, it's trying for them to not be hindered from exploring. So at what point do certain people, when they can't control the child, start to believe that, I am not denying that there are disabilities out there, but how do we still allow our children to learn and be okay to venture beyond certain borders, and them not feel like they're being labeled, in a certain way? That seems to be more of a challenge for, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to be more of a challenge for our people, because labels are killers and can be killers. And when we watch our children venturing out to be explorative, how do we encourage that at home and limit that and create a discipline for them when they're at school or something like that?
B, you want that one?
really. But I'm gonna be honest. Like, no, I just had a conversation this week with the psychologists and the guidance counselors at my school. Um, and I was like, we were talking about how like this particular one of my coworkers is leaving because some things she doesn't agree with some things that was going on in the school, and she was saying like how that it was just like level of this, it was a disconnected communication, and something that, and I don't want to quote wrong because my brain is a little all over the place right now, but she was saying like how come with people who have the good heart to like want to like working in areas like for the school that I'm in is in an area with high Hispanic population. It's a very diverse school, but it has a very high Hispanic population and a high African American population. And I said, and a lot of times, people who come into this area considered a Title IV area. If you got a student loan, you know what that is. So some of them individuals want to do their 5 years and they get out of here because they get their loans forgiven after 5 years. And a lot of those people come in with white savior complex, and I had to tell them just like that. And they just want to scoop in and think they're going to save the day, and they find out that when it takes more work than that. You can't just like they realize that their cape is not as long as they thought it was. And they get disappointed. That's why we have a lot of over our early diagnosed kids. Well, oh yeah, because he definitely has ADD. He's 2 years old. Like, what are we doing? Every 2 and 3 year old got ADHD. Like
Right.
I just feel like, some of the professionals are like digging their boots into the ground a little too early, and you are a licensed professional, Apostle, so maybe you could probably speak more to this. But I find that it's they have a lot of difficulty in like dealing with our kids, so it makes the parents, as a parent, like Apostle can tell you that when my daughter was in kindergarten, they were trying to test my daughter for all these. And was I not fighting, Apostle? I absolutely, and she had to be. Just listen to the people. Don't just no, because I was hot. I was absolutely upset. Here go this little Caucasian woman gonna come here and tell me about my daughter. Like, and it is definitely high amongst our community. African American people, we a lot of times don't want our kids labeled because we have enough on us.
Right.
We do.
Right.
But as a
But can
parent,
that be?
go ahead.
Can you
I
label
just feel
that
like as a
fast?
parent, huh?
Can it be? Can it be labeled at that young of an age? I don't know. That's why I'm asking. Can somebody
Yes.
look at 2 and 3 and say, "Oh, they got ADHD"?
I don't
So
It's
agree
it's
with
a
that,
small.
but listen to the professional.
I get it. Well, the
Okay.
professionals are the parents and the people that walk through this. And why we are going this way, we always do this. I want y'all to know. And it's always started. It always comes out of Texas. That's all I'm gonna say. So
Because we're supposed to be talking about thankfulness.
I don't know. I'm just y'all
Ooh.
can't. You cannot prick my brain and have me on a thought process. And I'm like, hey, I'm wondering. Listen, I believe that God created me to impact systems. I believe it. But if yous are telling me stuff I don't know, and I'm sitting here and I'm like, hold on. If somebody who owns a certificate can tell a parent who should be the professional, knows the baby better than anybody else, that at 2 years old, in their formative years, they just got potty trained, they're just walking on, and they can immediately look at them and put we're not gonna go spiritual, but literally almost put a prophetic judgment on them.
Mhm,
um that's dangerous.
mhm.
That's why a lot of that's the reason why white parents prefer their children in white schools, Black children prefer their children in Blacks. Like every culture would prefer their culture to teach their kids, as long as we have a basic level of excellence. So that's why I was just asking a question. Texas is going to be silent as Florida speaks.
Texas is fine. Texas is fine. There's so many pieces that could come out of that because, yeah, I remember when B talks about her daughter and that process, right? And it can be daunting because we have to talk about this. We got to make a month out of this conversation too. So somebody remember that I'm saying this so that y'all can type it in the chat and remind me.
All right, what is it?
I have no idea, but somebody's going to come up with the title for this so that we can work this out. In a nutshell, though, I'm not the title person, but y'all bring it to me. I'll bring the content and I'll grab some people. The reality is that every culture has a different experience with certain types of whatever we classify them as, disorders or disabilities. So when we talk about, I like me, I'm comfortable with me, absolutely you are, because when you can see yourself, that's why representation is important, right? If I could see myself in my parents, if I could see myself in my culture, this is the normative for what our culture is, what we do, what we bring.
Okay.
The challenge that comes with that is that it's not that there is a label, because sometimes, although we say that labels limit, labels can expose and open the door to certain things that we don't necessarily see. So in the reality of the nature and nurture perspective, there are some individuals, the earth is heightened with ADHD right now. It is not just in our children, it is in our pulpits. It's in our systems. And what we are now, Adam, watch this, be listened to. What we are now saying is the voice of God, and God told me to move in this direction and I'm moving it. It's really, in some cases, just leaders who are bored with one thing, moving into another thing, and they've got ADHD on the podium. But we don't want to talk about that because it goes unrecognized, undiagnosed, because there is a certain type of nature that comes with certain things. So we're going to table that, but we're going to talk about it, right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
What we recognize, though, specifically in my case with my daughter, I am one of those clinicians that do agree with the fact that there is a space that I feel is too young to really know, right? Okay. I personally feel that. But I have also watched in working the profession that there could be so much trauma that can create anxiety that could alter a person's DNA that young.
Got it.
So we are experiencing a lot of different things that are taking place in our culture. Let's look at the African-American culture with the post-traumatic slave syndrome idea and trauma after trauma, generational after generational, and how that passes down. Cultural experiences that we have now that keep us in a disenfranchised position. That creates stress. That stress alters how we function from a molecular level. So if you're looking at somebody who is, oh, you look depressed. Well, my mama looked this way. Well, mama was probably depressed, but just didn't recognize it. And there was no assistance for that. So sometimes there is value in tapping into what could be taking place in the family that is unrecognized. This is why mama was moody. This is why daddy drunk. We are doing things in our culture that have been normalized, but in all actuality, we have used them as coping strategies and just said, this is how we are, right? I'll say this last point as it relates to the disability disorder space. When we walked through the whole process with Kayla, right? I recognize that even as a child, she got diagnosed at 3 with autism. Brian and I was talking about this today, and we started walking through her timeline again. Every now and again, I walk back through it because that was my ultimate travel partner. I preached with her in my womb, right? She would go with me across the country on assignments and wouldn't say a word. Every now and again, she would speak and then she wouldn't. And I'm like, okay, but she's the quietest baby. Just would stay on my chest, would not be moved by the plane, all the noise, the adjustment. As long as she was with me, she was fine. By the time she had a growth space, A lot of her frustration from a communicative perspective and her internal emotional dysregulation started to reveal itself. What came out of that was that that child didn't know how to handle boundaries. So while she was exploring, going back to your point that all children explore, she didn't have the mechanisms internally to know what was safe. So everything was unsafe. She would hype up everything as unsafe. And so we needed to help her understand this is good, this is not good. When she became 4, she wouldn't ride in a car. When she would hear a car coming around the corner, she would run into the house and be screaming because she couldn't register what the balance was in between a car just approaching versus what fear could be. Now, does every child go through that? Yes. Hers was heightened, which would make the distinction between what is quote unquote normalized and what would be not, what would not be. So oftentimes in our particular culture, I'll talk to us, the idea of the label space is not to make our babies look crazy. At least that's not my intention as a clinician, right? I don't want our babies to look crazy in front of the rest of the world because they're not crazy. But
Right.
it doesn't speak, it doesn't take away the fact that there might be some things that have either passed through the DNA or have been introduced environmentally that we should not pay attention to, because otherwise we leave them underrepresented from things that they may need in order to support them. Now I'll take this another place further, and I promise I will stop out of Florida. I believe that
This is good.
neurodivergency, this neurotypical idea, the brain being overstimulated and processing like miles a minute faster than computers, is God's idea. And it is being introduced in a heightened way. We have recognized it or haven't recognized it in some systems or in some seasons in the past, but we are being called to recognize it now because those children and those adults are the most intelligent individuals. Now, as a clinician, when we take them through psychological testing, their IQs are through the roof. There is something about this energy that I believe that God is allowing to be in the earth for whatever reason. And we are being called to stop trying to normalize them and come to understand what exists through them that is changing the dynamic of our culture.
Can Texas ask one last question?
If Delaware will respond, then yes.
Okay, this is a okay, here's the question, and I'm done.
Move to Florida.
Because of what you said about your road partner, your roadie, right? Your little one, she's traveling with you everywhere while you're going out and preaching and stuff. Now, I know on what level you preach on.
Mm-hmm.
I know where you go in and out of when you flow like that.
Mm-hmm.
Would you recommend, I don't know if you're going to do this as an apostle, as a clinician, as a mom, whatever. Would you recommend, because of how you flow, that if other mothers flow the way you flow, is there a time limit that you might pull back from the road? Because everything you're flowing through, would you agree that she might have been experiencing?
Are you talking about in utero or out?
In. When you were pregnant and you were in a flow, or as your baby, she's with you all time. I was initially talking about in utero.
Mm-hmm.
But is there for people who, let's be more direct, for people who have been given keys to deliverance in the certain realms, would you, how do you feel, or how would an armor bearer feel about you being at full strength in them realms?
Well, see, you know what? I don't think, B, I'm gonna take this from you.
See, I
don't
threw
know.
one. I did
Right.
say.
Yes, you did. I want you all to read this comment at the bottom, because I want us to address this, and then I want us to shift, because we have to have, like, this is 5 months of content. And I always say I can't stand Adam, I can't stand Texas, but I love him because he provokes all of this space out of us, right? So would I have pulled back from ministry? No, because I didn't pull back from anybody. I didn't pull back with any of the 4 that I preached. I preached with all of them in my belly, right? I don't think that oh, thank you. I don't think that I thought that there was a space where I would be in the will of God where I would not be protected.
Okay.
And that's only if I am suggesting, which I am not at all, that this thing happened to Kayla because of it. I would never believe that, right? And I don't think that you're suggesting that, but it's almost like a singer gonna stop singing, or if someone is going to stop doing their work because of their pregnancy or their exposure into certain spaces. Now, will I watch what goes into my body? Yes. But I don't think I ever thought about the reality of what you just reminded me of, how I moved in ministry. Man, there was some spaces where Brian would probably look at me like, but he was used to it. Right. So there was never a thought to say, okay, back up, let's kind of slow this thing down, because there was never a need.
Well, this is the question. What you caught my attention is when you said that she would hear a car that's coming into the area, but not able to discern the distance of it. There are parts of that are so prophetic that
it could hold it,
right.
Because when you said it, I could see it, right? I could. But then there are also, watch, B, you came to the house when we lived in the condo. B has been to all of our houses except for this one. So it's time for a visit, young lady. I remember we had visitors over, and Kayla, she didn't say a whole lot, but she would just kind of be close to me. And Brian would be like, this child, my daughters are always close to me, and she just don't want to be. And the prophet was in the house. It was a prophet. And he said, there's something that she just wants to be connected to in your womb, because there's such a kingdom space that was there, right? And I heard it and I received it, but it was something else. And Adam, hear my heart. I am not suggesting that spiritual influence it's not a part of my reality in my realm. I just think that we could use it a lot of times to spiritually bypass something else, because we don't want to contend with it and then not see it as God's purpose as well. Right. And so I am in the balances. I understand that everything that has been birthed out of me is birthed out of me spiritually, emotionally, physically, mentally for a season. Some of it has, a lot of it, all of it has been influenced by my DNA, my nurture. And we get to navigate that, right? We get to navigate that in the sense of our awareness. I come from a DNA of a family line that are prayer powerful. My grandfather, I think I told y'all this story. He used to pray until his knees bled, but on that same line was heavy addiction. So I understood that was a part of my DNA. It wasn't a part of my nurture, but it was very possible that I could clinically, mentally have an addictive nature. So you know what? I didn't take the alcohol route. I didn't take the drug addiction route, not because it was wrong. Here she comes. Not because it was wrong, but because I just was aware of the fact that if I hello, I'm gonna get your phone. See, can you say hello? Hi, bye. If I took that route, it's very possible that understanding my lineage and my heritage, that I could have assumed an addictive nature as well, or I could have awakened that gene or that spirit. And I didn't want to do it. So our awareness about what we experience where we come from, what we're exposed to. I want to challenge everybody to really see that at a broader perspective, because it is not to say that you're a bad mom or you're a bad dad. That's not what that's about. At least it's not that for me. What it is about is when I know how to understand you, I can communicate. Ooh, one of the things I used to say to my husband when we started working with Layla in certain spaces, and I said, sweetie, I'm depending on you because this child is you. You know her. And he used to laugh at me, that child ain't me. Oh, but the more she grows, the more I understand her witty inventions, her witty tongue, the systems of how her brain operates. It's opposite than mine, but it is exactly his. When we have awareness, we know how to lead. We know how to guide. We know how to shape. And when we don't have understanding, or when we say, okay, yeah, I'll allow this because it looks good, but then I won't allow this because it looks bad, then we limit our ability to shape, to lead, and to guide. Kayla has to have an existence in this world because I won't always be in this world. Have I shaped her for her experience? Have I guided her?
The problem.
That's the
kind of the
too.
challenge. That's kind of like the challenge. I remember the very first time you held Kyle. The very first time you held Kai and you prophesied over her, the girl was dead asleep. And it was a week after that we went to a prayer meeting, and Kai was asleep, and a woman walked up to us, a pastor, walked up to us and said, oh my God, she's so beautiful. Can I hold her? Kai was asleep. And I put Kai in her. Now, Kai had been in her mom's belly, and her mom would sit. When she couldn't sleep, she had to sit in a recliner chair and she would pray, and she would pray over the baby. So when I put the baby in this pastor's hands, Kai went and started screaming. And we were like, what? So I took her and I held her, and I was like, I don't know what that was about. And so her mom said, give her to me. So she held it for a minute. And the pastor came around again, and she tried to do it again. And Kai went ballistic, and Kai went ballistic from a sleeping state. And from that point, my pastor walked up to me and she said, don't you let that pastor touch this baby again. There is, like, obviously, Kyle is not completely disconnected from the spiritual realm. So her having to figure out the balance of this new world is your responsibility. And so that's what I understand with you and Kayla. She comes out of your womb and out of the complexities of everything you had to walk through with her brilliant self. And she is like Dr. Strange. She's the fourth dimension. So she sees things that other people don't see, or feels things before they happen. And learning the balance in the excellence of your child is a challenge I think that a lot of parents have, and they would enjoy it if they did not yield to a judgment of somebody who beforehand is saying, oh, they need Ritalin, they need this, they need that. Take a moment out and realize that God gave you a brilliant genius, and the intelligence of heaven is in them, and having to navigate what is brilliance and what requires education or boundaries and all that. I think that's the beauty of the parental experience. Okay, Christmas.
Yes. Hold on. B.
Yeah.
Oh, she talking to her
I'm
people.
sorry.
Okay. No, you okay?
I'm sorry. I forgot I wasn't on mute. Somebody just walked in my house, and I'm like,
okay, go take that. It's
I'm
okay.
sorry.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry.
You okay? Let me address this question because make sure you're writing that down, Adam, because we have to have this conversation, right?
Okay.
Sometimes Miss Niche, Darling Bennett says, sometimes can this be deemed a stereotypical judgment? They may label it as just a behavior issue. Yes, it absolutely can, because we've got statistics. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. And I wanted to address it here because we have a lot of statistics that would say that And it's so interesting. We have a lot of statistics against our cultural experience as it relates to disorders and disabilities that are out there. Yes. And so typically people would say, well, our Black men are just aggressive. Our Black women are just, hyper independent or whatever. But we would be surprised as well that there's some positive statistics about our African American lineage and the strength that we have as well. I remember, and I'll say this and then I'll move. I remember when Sabrina, who was a twin when she was born, who was a twin. She's still a twin. I had twins. Sabrina was the twin. We lost the one, and she maintained. She grew, and resolved through all of the issues that she had. And one of the things that the nurses will say is that, you know what, when we have twins and they are premature, Adam, watch this. When we have twins and they're immature, we can count the fact of how many. The statistics always rank best for the African American girls to survive.
Wow.
I asked the nurse, I said, why do you say that? They said, because they have an incredible amount of strength. It's not going to be the Caucasian males or the Caucasian females. The statistics don't support it. But the ones who typically survive are going at premature, because this child was the size of my hand when she was born. At that stage and at that level are typically going to be the African American girls, which has the greatest statistic. The next level is the African American boys. And I said, wow, this is so interesting to me, because it would speak to strength transfer or DNA transfer. So even if we want to logicalize ourselves into certain things now or over logicalize ourselves, there's some things that are just downright spiritual.
Right.
That
Right.
we can only explain from that perspective and then see their strength be realized. So, wow, I don't know how we got on this, but good Lord. Yes.
Beautiful.
Good
That's
Lord.
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So powerful. And I'll leave it alone, because I could go like, while you were talking, something just sat on me about that we've learned how to survive judgment cultures.
Yes.
We came into a space being judged and
Mm-hmm.
being deemed certain things, and we've had to survive that. And it almost seems like our children get that, and they get that in a spiritual sense. So
Yeah.
let's talk about it later. But just so I don't miss anything, the notes I wrote for the future that we are going to do is basically said, what happens when teachers say something is wrong with my child?
Mm-hmm.
Should my culture teach my child? ADHD in the church, disabilities versus disorder, and can some of these things simply be a behavioral issue?
Yeah.
Is there anything else?
Nope, not at the moment, unless somebody else is watching us and saying, listen, can you add that to the list? Because some of those could definitely be blended. I've got some ideas around who could speak to those spaces and who to invite to have that conversation with us. It's going to be a time, but obviously we need to have it, because this is where we deal with all things pertaining to life and godliness. Sometimes we have an issue bridging all of the two. There is not one without the other, and vice versa. And we shouldn't want one without the other.
Right.
It's inconsequential, right? So yeah, let's table that. Great conversation, guys.
Awesome.
Listen, we're thinking about Thanksgiving. What are you guys doing for Thanksgiving, for that holiday? Do you have a particular reverence for it, or is it just about eating and resting? What are we doing with that?
The educational side of me, I feel like that. I feel like the more I'm being educated within my culture, I'm going to school at the University of Arizona for Africana Studies, and so the more that I get empowered within my space, is the more I'm starting to put context to everything. So this is the year that I feel a little bit conflicted about Thanksgiving, knowing the truth about it. I don't want to be religious and give thanks with a grateful heart and just like that, But I understand that ultimately we do want to be thankful and take a day out of the year, though Thanksgiving should be every day.
Mm-hmm.
But to take a day out of the year and say, God, for all the things you've done,
Mm-hmm.
hallelujah,
Mm-hmm.
we give you thanks
Yeah.
and we give you praise. I really felt that right there. For all the things you've done, we give you thanks and we give you praise. But what I'm learning is once I get up off my knees, I have to then deal with the reality of our situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how I'm going to feel on Thursday, knowing that indigenous peoples aren't celebrating this day.
Mm-hmm.
That our Indian brothers and sisters will only remember this day as the beginning of a deception that began a genocide in their culture.
Wow.
So like I said, I'm really conflicted on this one because white America celebrates this the way they celebrate it, and they're allowed to, because this was emblematic of their guy supposedly finding America, even though in reality the only reason why they started celebrating Columbus Day was because they found out he was crook.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So,
Okay. Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
there's some things. So I would just challenge people who might have a problem with what I just said. Please go and do your research on Christopher Columbus. Do your research on Christopher Columbus Day. Do your research on what really happened when they came across and they got to our islands and had the conversation with the indigenous peoples and shook hands and made bread. Some of the most dangerous deals are made at the table, and shook their hands and made an agreement, all the while knowing that before they made the agreement, they were like, we're going to take these people's lands. And so when you think about that, let's just remember that there are a lot of people who are mourning the theft and the robbery of their land and culture. And though we give God thanks for the life of quote unquote freedom that we have in our nation, let's keep our eyes open about the reality of what our brothers and sisters have to deal with in other nations every day.
Yeah, that was so good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. B, what's your plans for this week, or how are you viewing this?
Um, Honestly, it's been so much going on in
Mm-hmm.
this little life that I got. That I wasn't originally going to cook or anything like that, but I had a change of heart and I am going to cook. But I when I historically for me, um for a long time, holidays were just like chaotic. Um for me, as much as I wanted it to be like family, like, and I have a large intermediate family. My mom has 11 kids. But I'm on a lower end of that. Like I'm almost the youngest. So being raised by my grandmother as a child, like my grandmom always had Thanksgiving dinner, and we all would go to her house. Well, we lived there. But I moved with my mom when I was 13. So as we were like the last set of kids that my grandmother raised, like my grandmom stopped cooking because she was tired. Like she would say, she was one of those people that say, I'm not cooking every year, but she would make a little something, trying to discourage people to stay home with their own families. But it was always like a big blowout when I was at my mom's house. Like it was always an argument, some type of dysfunction. Like it was just like I was always depressed around this time of the year. If you knew me personally, then you would know. I was always trying to be at somebody else's house. Because I couldn't understand why my family was like, why are we like this?
Mm-hmm.
So when I had my own family, especially when it was just me and Paris, like I'm like, I don't gotta cook, it's just me and Paris. So like, and then life started life, and then like I lost a brother the day before Thanksgiving. Literally, one of my brothers was murdered the day before Thanksgiving. As life continues, another one of my brothers, his birthday is not too far before Thanksgiving. He was killed. I lost a brother a year ago. His birthday actually was a few days ago. So like this time of the year is always like a
Mhm.
time that like, where like, a lot of bad memories tend to come into play. And I do, as the head of my own household now, I do try to create new memories. I'm not one that likes to dwell on the past. The past just creeps up on me. I'm not one, because like some people commemorate deaths and things like that. I try not to do that. Like, oh, I'd rather celebrate a birthday versus the anniversary of somebody's death. But it's hard. Like those, like grief hits you at times when you least expect it.
Yes.
So I try that. I don't want this house to be filled with gloom, but there's a lot of dark memories that circle around this little November. The
Mhm.
November to remember. But I, I
Oh,
I don't know, but I agree with what Adam was saying about as far as the indigenous people. This is not a happy time for them. And I've had conversations with true Native Americans, and I've received like their spill firsthand. So I absolutely get it. So but now at my old age, I'm just like, whatever. Thanks. I'm off of work. That's what I know. So I just like I dwell on that. But
yes.
like I don't but it's hard. It can be very challenging because November holds a lot of memories, different representations for a lot of different things in my family. So
Mm.
as much as you like, we don't nobody well, I ain't gonna say that. A lot of people don't plan to be depressed, but depression creeps up on you because some people do plan on depression. Like some people will say, "Oh, it's Thanksgiving. I'm not coming out my room. I'm not doing none of this." That's planning depression to me. Sorry if you're one of those people, but some people are like that. I don't want to be depressed,
Not a planned
but
depression, not a
listen,
planned
a
one.
memory,
Oh,
a
shoot. Hold
song,
on. Let's
anything
stop the service. May
just
we
creeps
all
up on me.
rise as the bishop enters into the room.
Wait, I am so not gonna let that happen because Bernicia Jackson was not finished with her statement.
Listen,
So
in the church, if y'all know the Church of God in Christ, you
no,
know
the
they
saints
will
who are late,
freeze.
the saints who are late do not get deference. So if I
They,
got a mute from the
no, but when
main
the bishop
system,
comes in, it's like,
nope.
I wasn't what, but I wasn't even trying to. I was just like, I was just laughing because I'm like, not a scheduled depression, not like I put it on
on
the
the
book,
calendar.
Yes,
right?
but you said that out loud, so that
I'm
was meant for
sorry,
the audience.
sorry, B, sorry.
Bernicia Jackson, please finish. Thank you. While they are still over here tickle pink, y'all see what we got to deal with? Y'all see? Y'all see what we got to deal with?
Oh my God. Oh
Yeah.
No,
Lord.
I think that
Jesus
was it.
made you, Pastor Brian.
These two, it's our testosterone crew. Well, let me
Oh,
say let me
uh,
say this in addition to or to add to what B was saying, because I definitely recognize that. I think that was my concern as
yeah.
a spiritual leader and as a clinician, that our challenge is that one of the things that I want people to consider remembering this week is that everybody's experience is not yours. Everybody's experience is not yours. And so we get to be sensitive to, treat our neighbor as we would treat ourselves, love our neighbor as we would love ourselves. We get to now be sensitive to the fact that this may not be a happy time for everybody.
Yeah.
We get
Yeah.
to be sensitive to that and then not create this guilt for other people that would suggest, oh, you should be over this by now. Everybody has the right to their process, whatever
Yeah.
that process is. And so I think that's what you were speaking to when you talked about the depression choosing space, whether they choose it or whether it is something that they are used to, because people can be so familiar to a feeling that they automatically assume that the feeling will occur. So that if
Yeah.
it doesn't, it's like, okay, I'm used to having this thing. People can be used to anxieties, and then when it's gone, it's like you've lost the best friend. So sometimes that could be that planned space. In any case, what we might want to refrain from is attempting to process other people's process. You can only be responsible for
Yeah.
your own. You can only be responsible for your own feelings. You can only be responsible for your own methods, and then allow people to be where they are. What you do have the right to do is determine if you have the capacity for it. It may be too much and you can't hang around. It might be okay and you want to be present. You have the ability and the right to be able to say if I can handle this or not. But what we can't do is process for other people. So I want you all to consider that as you are experiencing the holidays, because ain't nothing like a good Thanksgiving dinner to wreak havoc in a family or bring some disruption to a conversation within family.
For real.
Secrets come
The
out.
lie, the
Listen,
lie, the holidays.
oh my
It-
gosh, secrets come out at the Thanksgiving table and at the funeral.
yeah.
So
Absolutely.
we want to be mindful of that.
Absolutely. And I think that I'm trying to be sensitive about that.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Well,
Go ahead, Pastor.
with Thanksgiving coming, and Black Friday being Friday, right?
Mhm.
Is there can we speak to this when you brought this up, Apostle? This was heavy to me because I had just looked up um, what the problem with the holidays, and when it talked about how Thanksgiving and Christmas are really celebrated as family holidays, and so it became a thing of, well, Jesus was celebrated with gifts for gold, frankincense, and myrrh, for how brilliant his life would be, the fragrance that his life would release, and his burial in the myrrh. And so then we're going to give gifts to celebrate this spot. And then it became a pagan thing, and then it became a thing where the wealthy Christians did it. And now, as of Thursday, like if any of y'all know, Black Friday is already happening in Texas right now.
Mhm.
Black Friday deals already going on in Texas.
Mhm.
We're so committed to the buying and the giving of gifts that if we don't have money for the buying and the giving of gifts, then we feel like we are kind of like in violation of the holiday. And then as the enemy has planned it, um, it's kind of like, because it's so strong of a family holiday, if members of your family aren't there, or you have conflict with some members of your family, it's a position point where the joy of that moment can be robbed of you, because you don't have certain family members around, or you don't get uh, you don't get a chance to see that. I know of a family, I talked to a brother yesterday who is dreading this Thanksgiving weekend because his family fights every year. Every year they fight.
Mhm.
And I said to him, why do y'all still get together? And he said, it's just what we do. And I said, what, the family or the fight? Like, where do we do this? Or at some point, I guess when we're talking over this next month, the question that I'm going to want to pose is, who's going to be the peacemaker this year? Who's going to try to be the peacemaker in our families and in our homes, so that we can we get along for a day?
But listen, that all depends on the war.
Listen, I was about to say the same thing. Listen, because my family, we gonna laugh, we gonna fight, we gonna eat, they gonna drink, they gonna smoke. Like listen, everything that I just outlined, we don't know when it's gonna happen, but it's gonna happen, and we gonna come back together. It's no specific order, but it's going down.
Mhm.
Just listen. When you walk in the door, just prepare yourself. We
Mhm.
don't know. Don't. It's not even no sense of getting upset, and that's what I had to come to terms with. Like, we not like I go to these other people's dinners and be like, "Oh, this is nice. Your family don't." No, I'm just haven't sat long enough. It happens. It might not be as eruptive as my family, but it happens. And I thought nobody listened. This little family that I got, baby, we need a reality show. Is what I used to say. But
Mhm.
I just realized I found out that we not no different than any other families. Honey, I've been to dinners with ministers, bishops, apostles, and be like, oh, your family crazy too. Yeah,
Mhm.
we're all nuts.
Can I
I just
ask a
had to accept
question?
people for real.
I'm
Yeah.
No,
sorry. Okay.
go ahead.
Okay, so to that point, my question is that because I mean it's clear, at least for black, I'm not I think it's for family period, but I think specifically because we are black people, we understand that black folk, when we get together, we gonna argue. Now I don't know, because my wife's family is, they precious. I don't they even if when they argue, they don't, I mean they don't, it's very disciplined, responsible
Intellectual.
argument. It's very,
They
it's
debate,
like,
Brian. They debate.
it's like, they're very, you know, it's like,
No, we're
you
just
know,
debating. We're not fighting. We're debating.
ain't nobody cussed nobody out yet. Like nobody just
Every
Listen,
said,
we
point of
just
view
learned
is a
we
sermon.
just learned effective communication. We
uh,
learned that we don't have to scream when we talk to each other.
but it's I mean it's not. I say it's more passion than anything, and I think especially with us black folk or brown and black or brown folk, I think it's always like it feels like we're screaming at each other when it's really just, this is the way we talk. This is the way we talk. I mean, it's just the way it is. I'm like, and it'd be like, because if you talk to people, be like, they say, I'm really not mad. I'm just loud. But to that end also, it's like, okay, when it's like, okay, if arguments are going to happen, they're going to happen. Remember, we talk about all the time and me and you, baby, we talked about it before on, like, for example, why did I get married or something like that, and we always always said, well, the healthiest couple was Marcus and Angela.
Right.
At the end
Ain't
of,
that pretty?
and they was yelling and carrying on, cussing and fussing and fighting. But at the end of the day, they was the couple that remained, that pretty much remained together. And it's like, but at some point, like, when does the arguing? So I'm like, okay, for my family, like, that's going to happen. And then when you start to get the libations and all the other things that support certain emotions involved, it starts to get like that. But then what happens when it, what's the border line when it becomes toxic, rather than, okay, this is just my family, this is what we do.
I think it can be toxic when it's not honest. That's why in that
Yeah.
same movie, the couple that talked elegantly well was the ones that were headed to divorce, because they
Yep.
weren't honest, they weren't authentic, and there were things that they just kept sweeping under the rug. I have no problem with the elevated conversations. As a matter of fact, I have a lot of them, especially when I have to do couples counseling. A lot of elevated conversations. As a matter of fact, I want to provoke it. Why? Because there's stuff that be hidden under the rug that becomes that's the reason why we are in therapy right now. I
But
think the
that Marcus,
suppression, huh?
that thing with Marcus and Angela, right? Um,
Don't start,
it
Adam.
it was. I'm just saying, it was a lot.
It
They're
was.
constant. They even had a show for a minute.
Mhm.
It was so much, and you began to wonder, how does anybody have peace in a place where y'all exist in conflict? The life of your marriage is in that constant clash, and she always got to be on a 10, and he always got to try to kind of pull her down, but then he don't want her in certain spaces of his life, so now he shields off part of his life, and now he's hiding stuff, and now he wants her to calm down until she finds out he was hiding, and she goes back up, this whole roller coaster. And it's like I literally seen people say the show was funny, but it was exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and then they say, well, I bet you a lot of black marriages are like that. And then we get labeled.
Well,
And
it's not only just, well, first of all, there's a lot with that, because what you highlight is important, but that's not just black marriages. You'd
I
be
was going to say that
surprised.
too.
but
It's
no.
it's
I
people.
understand that, and we
Mm-hmm.
know that,
Mm-hmm.
but it's only being portrayed.
Mm-hmm.
by Black people.
Right. Right.
So
I get it. So that's what they see in front of them. That's another topic. Write that down because I think that that's a good communication space. When we talk about the holidays and what people feel when we come together and that communication, sometimes this is, think about it. Sometimes this is the only time that we are in a room together. And so things become revealed. Sometimes when we are in a room together, um, sometimes when we are in a room together, we are in this
Who
space
is this
that
person?
yeah, I don't know. I haven't read it yet. Sometimes when we are in a room together, sometimes we don't know how much we trigger people or trigger each other. There could be reminders of a whole bunch of things that could take place that we don't even often recognize. So that is something that we need to be paying attention to as well when we get together, if we get together with families. We don't have to have a dynamic that is not real to us, but we do have to be in a space that is real for us. Okay, so don't ever get that twisted. We want to be in a space that is authentic for us. Authenticity, authentic,
we
right?
thank God. We thank God for our viewing audience. They're so interesting, aren't they? We love their spaces and all of the different turns that our viewers go. But we would love it if our viewers could stay on the topic with us as we jump from topic to topic.
We jump in
Jump,
ourselves.
yeah, just jump with us. And for our viewers, please don't respond to viewers who don't live by life rules.
Hmm.
Life forum rules are important. Let's stay within the rules, okay? And we'll manage when we can.
Yeah. That was just the conversation that I wanted us to have as it related to how we handle the holidays. It was a good first segment talking
You
about
didn't
how we
answer,
gonna bridge. Go ahead.
you never answered,
Huh?
you never answered the question.
Which
You
question?
never What are
Oh,
you doing for
well,
Thanksgiving?
thank you for that because I did not answer that question and we kind of bypassed that, right? I am going to be home and I'm going to study. I'm going to take this time to allow my brain to just have a huge rest from dissertation work. And then I'm going to allow it to re-engage dissertation work from a rested perspective. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna cook with my honey bun there, who is ready with his utensils to cook, and we're not
Yes,
having
babe.
right, we're not having any company this year, and I am so okay with that because we always have company for some form. Spiritual leaders, people always assume that they're supposed to have their doors open, and we will if somebody needs it. But I just did not offer this year so that I
Question
could
for
get some brain rest.
question for
Yes.
you and Bishop. What is your favorite thing to cook? Shez, what is your favorite thing for him to cook?
Hmm. My favorite thing for him to cook is anything. What
He
I like
burns
to,
like that?
oh, listen, this
Oh, I
dude,
can't wait till June.
yeah, this dude. Um,
Yeah, I'm not fat for
Yeah,
nothing.
he's come
I'm
a
not.
long way from chicken and rice.
I don't.
yeah, he burns like that. So my
I'm not.
favorite
I'm not
thing
fat
to
for
cook,
nothing.
Okay. What's
what?
your favorite thing to cook, sir?
Um, I really, I'd be like, dang, it really depends. It really depends. I like to cook. I need to cook some lasagna. It's been a while since I made some lasagna, um, yeah, I like. Yeah, I really don't have a favorite thing per se. I just kind of go with how I feel. So it's not
Okay.
necessarily a favorite. It's just kind of like just put some things together, and it turns out to be really really good.
B, are you a burner?
You know, I have evolved.
You evolved.
I listen, if you'd have asked me about, I don't know, maybe about 10, 15 years ago, listen, I was a eater, not a preparer. But
Okay.
I have like slowly but surely started to cook more. I'm not Chef Boyardee, But I think, oh, first of all, my son is super greedy, so I have no choice but to cook. My son is very greedy. So I have started to cook more, but I'm definitely, I would never put myself out there and say, oh yeah, because I can follow directions. I call my sister every 5 minutes. Serena, how you make such and such? Now I like, not something that I enjoy making. I like making desserts. I do like making desserts. I'm
Mhm.
very greedy.
Mhm.
My appetite over the since almost a year, like I haven't been able to eat like I would have normally have been eating. So a lot of that has changed. But I like making desserts like banana pudding. I'm always looking up a recipe for some kind of dessert. I'm really heavy into making dump cakes now.
I love dumb
um
cakes. Oh my
Listen,
God.
I just made a peach cobbler one. Yes.
Oh,
It's
some-
amazing. I
sometimes
love me a
it's
good dump
a
cake.
healthy life. Lord God.
Yeah,
Yeah, stop.
so
Y'all stop talking like this. No,
Yeah.
Adam, it's not allowed.
Yeah,
Unallowed.
I make spaghetti. My black self, my favorite thing is spaghetti meatballs and Italian sausages. So I can
sausage.
make that.
Okay.
Stephanie loves it. My healthy self, my favorite thing is either cream of chicken or cream of turkey casserole with onions and peppers and rice and all that stuff together. But prayer, thankfully, this time my wife is cooking. She cooks twice a year. No, 3 times. She cooks for my birthday, she cooks for Christmas, and she cooks for Thanksgiving. And the rest of it, it's either me or we up for grabs because we are empty nesters. Praise God's name.
Now I will say
Praise God.
I almost made it.
I make I make the tenderest turkey that you ever want to have. Like because turkey, like usually people hate to eat turkey because it's always for some reason it always is dry, especially
Uh-huh.
the chicken breast. But my turkey is always tender. Like you can like literally like by the time I'm done, you can take the literal turkey apart with a fork.
Well,
The
praise God. So
entire turkey.
you're going to cut it and freeze it for about 7 months, and and
Not 7 months.
yeah.
That 7 month thing might happen. Sometimes we have so much we can have extra, especially if we're preparing for people, that it will stick it in the freezer and be like, oh, this is where this went. No, we're gonna make fresh turkey. Okay, we'll do that.
Is your family flying in?
Not this year.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Thanksgiving is usually quiet. Christmas is probably when most people will try to come. It's getting colder up north. People want to have a warm space. Although it's been cold down here lately, I won't tell you the degrees because y'all will be mad and act like I don't know no better.
Okay.
So we will see.
Has it been
Okay.
60?
Child, and you know I am upset.
Freezing.
That's
Freezing.
It's
They
been
had on their
59
North
degrees
Face
down
coats and
here.
everything. They had on
well,
North
it would
Face
be
coats
cold.
and mittens.
It would be colder because you're near the water, right?
Yes, but still. It
Yeah,
starts at like 59 in the morning. It'll ultimately get up to like 79, but it's still annoying. Like
I
I'm
was in
like,
San Diego. I remember. Lord
yeah, so but I hate to say that
Up
to my
in Pierce,
northerners.
New York. They want
I
to act
got,
like she don't know what cold is.
well, it's been a while. It's been a while. It's been a while, but feels good right now. So
All
yeah.
right, Shizetta, before you shut us down, I have one more question from Texas.
Oh my Lord.
On this Thanksgiving holiday, um, if you had a wish or a prayer for us, thank you, Ben. How would you hope we would think about this holiday or how we should celebrate it? What would you hope that our minds could be focused on in order to keep us balanced?
Hmm. Wow. Well, I think my big thought would be to invite people to really look at the value of humans and really learn how to appreciate and celebrate those that are around you. Now, granted, we have had historical traumas, things that are in our earth existence now and the dimensions that we're in that are being revealed that cause people to be at odds with each other. And that's probably going to continue for another season, but there's going to come a day, I hope it would be soon, that we would spend more time focusing on the attention of what human condition brings versus trying to shop ourselves out of depression on a Black Friday or for Christmas. My prayer is that people would start healing, and that healing requires that people be open to certain types of painful conversations that allow for healing. So that's my hope. We're going to be doing our work here. If somebody needs to reach out, somebody locally, one of the pastors here is having a grief support. We're going to try to join them in support of that. Also, if people need to reach out, I might do something live on that day to just kind of check in with individuals to make sure that they're hanging tough and that they're okay. Because again, sometimes it's not just about the deaths alone. It's about the travesty of, I don't want to be around these people who birthed me because of what it reminds me of. There's just so much. I don't have enough money. People expect gifts. There's so much what we call seasonal affective disorder, just the whole hardship of the holidays, right? And people not having enough to perform for other people. We've created that as a thing, and it creates another hardship for individuals to have to endure. And so if we would remove ourselves from those extras and just really focus on the humanity, the humans that are around us, and heal.
Powerful.
That would be my focus.
Good. That's powerful.
Yeah. So I'm hopeful that everybody will enjoy the holiday. You need to rest because rest is healing. Rest is a self-care activity that everybody needs. If your brain is going, because we're in an ADHD society, we can't even tell who has diagnosable ADHD and who doesn't, just because we are the quick click. That's why we like click tracks. We are clicking, we are orchestrating and organizing things so quickly that we can move on at the whim. My hope is that people would slow down and get some rest over these couple of days, and don't overextend yourself financially, and take that into 2025 for the sake of trying to perform for other people. It doesn't serve them, and it definitely doesn't serve you.
Powerful.
Yep. That's it for me. I think my husband got kicked out of here. He was trying to come back, but we'll leave him go. Listen, B, have a wonderful holiday. I'm sure that we will speak to you Thursday. Prophet out of Texas, have a wonderful holiday. I'm hopeful that we'll cross paths and we'll speak to you and to our missing life formers who are missing from tonight's stream. Thank you for this conversation, and thank you for hanging out with us. We receive and accept all comments, whether we agree or not. That's not what this is about. Add your perspective, and we can either speak to it or not. But we love the fact that you were here with us. Until next time, get ready. We are back with the power behind the tongue next week. And for the next 4 weeks, we're going to plow through that. So have a wonderful experience. I don't know what that shake is, but it looks well. Thanks, Stephanie, for doing that.
Yeah, it's a sunrise, sunset smoothie.
Nice.
Bananas, pineapples, all the good stuff.
Nice.
So, Coach She, Sister B, Bishop B, Lady Bree, love y'all. Have a great time. Enjoy your holidays. We'll see you in a little bit.
Oh my gosh. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.
The South Miami-Dade area and looking for a quality music group to join? Take a look at this.